Hey fam, how y'all doing? What's going on? Listen, most of the time I say we gonna get out of here today, we really gonna get out of here. Because you know, I think y'all saw what happened today. YouTube has a thing about what you talk about in the first few minutes. So good golly, Miss Molly. I mean, y'all all saw what happened, and I'll say it by name after a while, but I mean, let me just say, hit the like button and subscribe if you're in here. And I'm just laughing. I'm laughing because this is my family. I'm not laughing. No, Rick came in here and left. No, I'm laughing because I'm talking to family. Shut up. Let me just put a little bit of. Let me just put, for those of you all who have been up under, like I say, hiding up under a rock for today, so that I don't have to say exactly what happened, because we know how we get discriminated against on these platforms. This is what happened. And for those of you all who did not see the video, I saw the video. And, you know, I think it kind of goes without saying for someone like me that I would rather this man be at home with his family, right? But I think something happens, and I think, listen, America, especially white America, especially people of color America, especially COON America. I think one thing that has to happen is that we have to be honest about something. I keep hearing people talk about, and RIP to this man, but I keep hearing people talk about the marketplace of ideas. And I keep hearing people talk about how this is not our country and this is not America, and we're not supposed to devolve into this kind of thing over political speech. And I'm just wondering, to the people who keep saying that all over my news channels, what country do you live in? Because, see, first of all, I just want to say one thing. We have to start talking about the marketplace of ideas. And I used to have this argument privately, which I remember Dr. Alexander Hamilton, right? I used to have that argument. I said, I'm not a total free speech person. And I'm not, because I don't believe everything is just an idea that you have the right to have. Now, it should not lead to you being, you know, what happened. That it should not lead to that. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying, first of all, the first things first, distinctions have to be made. Distinctions have to be made. Stop talking to me, first of all, about how this is not who we are and everybody is allowed to say whatever they need to say, and it should not result in any kind of harm. Because those of us who have lived through what we've lived through, or who have parents who have lived through, or our history or lineage ties us to something, know that it absolutely results in that. And this is not what we're talking about. It's not just political speech. We're talking about advocacy on behalf of freedom, right? Malcolm X was not just going out saying, I'm gonna hurt, he said, if somebody hit you, you hit them back. Ended up in a coffin, right? Just advocating for a group of people. King said, I believe in love and justice. And he ended up in a box. I think he got a gunshot to the neck too. Advocating based on love and the Bible and Christianity. That's what happened. That was a very different kind of political speech, though. I don't think that kind of political speech or any kind of political speech should land you there. So don't nobody say, oh, Yvette said this or Yvette. I did not say that. I think Charlie Kirk should be at home with his family, right? But these are not the same kinds of speech. And one of the things I'm kind of tired of hearing from people on the news is that all political speech is protected. Yes, it should be. But don't talk about these kinds of political speech as if they are the same. We should have a conversation with ourselves as Americans about dehumanizing speech. We should have a conversation with people on the right who go around and say, hey, just because you heard Thomas Sowell say it, don't mean it's right. He done carried a lot of water. He done ruined more white minds than methamphetamines. So don't go around thinking, well, Thomas Sowell said it. No, it ain't. If you go around saying we're better during slavery, or we were better during the 1940s, or we have cultural deficiencies, or we are somehow less than, or we have low IQs, that is dehumanizing language. And we should not ladies and gentlemen, have a discussion about dehumanizing language as if it is the same as all other political language, that everything belongs in the public square. No, nobody, there should not be a bullet that takes you out of that square. No. People should have the ability to evolve and change over time. But don't tell me that dehumanizing speech is in any way valuable to the discourse in America. If it was, we'd be further along now, because this whole thing, they've been using this dehumanizing speech against us the whole time. You can go back to before the Civil War. You can go back to slavery. The thing that kept us in chains was dehumanizing speech. So I push back against people who think that dehumanizing speech doesn't cause the kind of violence that we saw today. It does. It just causes it against a different group. Dehumanizing speech, that IQ, that interpretation of the Bible, slaves obey their masters, you don't have the capacity, you're a child race, you are children, you are inferior. That was dehumanizing language that we still have to deal with today. And there are people on the right who use that language for a very specific reason. You see, sometimes you get caught up. I don't know who did this, and I would love to know, and I can't make any real assessment until I know who the perpetrator is. I can't. I don't know who did this, but sometimes you have to be very careful about yelling fire. Sometimes you get caught up in these race wars or whatever that you've been fanning the flames of. Sometimes people get caught up in something they don't mean to get caught up in. You have to be very careful because, you know, we're all God's children. You got to be very careful how you treat people. Doesn't condone anything. But this flagrant dehumanization of other people, and it's not just ADOS, but I'm speaking specifically to us because that's who I am. It's not just us. But I cringe at the idea of that kind of language being included in the language that we seek to protect. I can't make you not be racist. I can't make you not use that language, but that's not the same as like having a debate on conservatism versus liberalism. That's not the same thing. That's not the same as having a debate on what our policy should look like. That's not the same as having a debate on what our system should look like, what our institutions should look like. Those are all valid debates. When you dehumanize people, that is a different debate. But I also have a problem with people behaving as if America has not always been violent. And there have not been people. There have not been violent acts. Listen, you insult us when you talk about that. You insult the history of America when you speak about America in that way, as if this is something new. Oh my gosh, I can't believe this. All language should be. No, it's not. There is this capacity in America to just, even today you see it. You saw people online. Oh my God! Well, what happened to Kirk? You have to make a example of the person who did this. We have a system for this. We have a system of arrest and prosecution. We don't have things where you just take people outside and hang them up no more, but that's what you want to go back to. We have a system. The person who did this, I don't even understand how they got away. Like, I don't understand that. I done seen a bunch of different people get pulled in and that had rifles or whatever. How did this person get away? I have so many questions. Have they caught him yet since I've been on here, fam? Do y'all see it? Did they catch anybody yet? Because I don't even understand that. How somebody shoot from 200 yards or whatever it was, slide off the roof and just get the heck on. I don't even understand how that happens with police and security and everything else. But the guy who did it with Trump, he initially or whatever was moving or whatever and got up on the roof. I don't even know what's going on in America there. It all sounds rather strange. It all sounds rather strange to me. It all sounds rather odd. So that's why I say I'm not even going to say anything about it, because I don't even know who did this. I don't even know the practice shooter who was up there. And then there were watchers on the other roof. I don't even know. Some stuff is just starting not to make sense to me. So I'm not even saying anything about that. I'm talking about the commentary that I have heard. And again, rest in peace to this man. And I hope his family gets through this. But we have to have a conversation about the kind of speech we have in this country that just fans the flames of all kind of hatred don't nobody want to deal with because, well, y'all is inferior. Y'all do have an inferior. Y'all, why was y'all doing better in the 1940s? We weren't. Why do you keep saying this? I wrote something, Substack like a month ago about how even you got people like the dude Andrew Sullivan, who way back when tried to have a whole debate with Ta-Nehisi Coates came in talking about, well, the bell curve does show that it peaks at different places for whites and Asians or whatever. What are you talking about? There's nothing about melanin and kinky hair that makes IQ peak. We don't have different brains. And you'll say, well, this belongs on the public square to have a discussion about. We got to talk about this public square and not that nobody should get hurt over it, but we got to talk about what fans the flames of all kinds of violence, because America's been violent since inception. How do you talk to somebody who comes from slavery and say, well, we can't be this way? What do you mean we can't be this way? Y'all used to hang people from trees, owl people. What do you mean we can't be this way? You've always been this way. And anything you talk about, when you talk about us and, well, y'all riot, these are expressions of things. When people are rioting, they're rioting because things are not just, and that's an explosion. When you see, oh, what about black on black crime? ADOS be doing what about ADOS doing that crime? I mean, yeah, these are poverty crimes. Show me any poor people in the world and I will show you crime. I will show you more crime than you ever see in a wealthy neighborhood or a middle-class neighborhood. All of this stuff is just dehumanizing language that avoids what we should be doing, which is try to fix it. The kind of speech we have in this country is a problem. The kind of speech people just kind of bemoan and say, well, it's still, and we should always be allowed. I'm not a person who believes that all free speech gets to be protected. I'm not a person who believes that everybody gets invited to the school. I'm not that person. I'm just not. You have 6,000 signatures that says this person shouldn't be invited. And I agree. You're a hateful person. Rest in peace, but that was hate. What do you think hate begets? Because we see what goodness begets. We see MLK and all kinds of people who were just living life. And all of a sudden they're gone because of what? Well, America, we should never, speech should never be, politics should never be violent. What was this? What do you think? What happened to JFK? Politics should never be. That's what America does. The problem isn't just with what happened today. The problem is with the country that we live in. And nobody wants to call it out and say, Houston, this country has a problem, and it's always had a problem. And the biggest indicator that it has a problem was ADOS. The way we were treated and are still treated is the biggest indicator that this country has a problem with violence. And nobody wants to recognize that until one of your own gets taken down. You don't have any kind of empathy. You don't have any kind of Christianity. You don't have any kind of love. You don't know what justice is. You don't have any kind of morality. And you only see it when it happens to one of yours. It's had a problem with this country with violence for years. What do you think Jackie O was doing when she was running over there to get her husband after they blew his brains out? What do you think was happening? Stop talking to me about our violence should never be the answer. And political violence, shut up. Do you know what country you're in? Hey, either you're going to fix it or you ain't. Either you're going to be a part of the solution or you ain't. But don't talk to me like I don't know what this country is. Don't talk to me like I don't understand what this country is and I don't understand what it can do. I remember when they dragged that. Everybody's talking about what happened last week with the young lady. Rest in peace to her too with the man, but he had a mental health problem. I talked on the last Patreon about Ronald Reagan, the institutionalizing mental hospitals. That's one thing JFK did do. He was trying to make sure that people had a place to be who had mental problems. You put them on the street and now they pushing people on the train tracks and you act like you don't know what happened. You don't have no heart. You don't have no heart for people. You don't have no heart for the mentally ill. You don't have no heart but for people who agree with you and you like them because they're vicious. You like them because they're angry. You like them because they're mean to the same people you're mean to. And then you run around and talk about empathy. I have empathy because of who I am, not because of who you are. My empathy comes from my heart. If my empathy was a reflection of you, it wouldn't exist in me. My heart is not hard because of who I am. It's not because you deserve it. Y'all got to stop. Y'all really have to stop. I don't care what people say. If you running around cutting people or push people on trains, do that stuff, something's wrong with you. You have something that needs to be diagnosed. And I saw somebody today, I tweeted it, talking about the country's splitting up, the country's dividing up. This was Congress 1958. When one lawmaker got the snot beat out of him for making an anti-slavery speech. He was never the same. He had PTSD. He was a cripple. Don't talk to me about how this country's being torn apart into different. It never got back together. It was never put back together. The same. We saw people yelling at each other today on the what was it, on the House floor? You did this. Shut up. Listen, let me tell y'all something. You'll never have another 9/11 moment where everybody get together and fake like they like each other. Never have that. They're gonna go back to this. This was something beating the snot out of him. He had a nervous problem after that. He was messed up. He was jacked up. This is not new. This is something that this country refuses to fix. Because why? Because if you fix it, you gotta deal with white folk. So let me just show y'all a little bit what you're seeing on that picture where the white man is beating another white man half crazy. A Massachusetts senator, staunch abolitionist, and one of the most outspoken critics of slavery. He was especially fiery in speeches. This is Charles Sumner, known for directly calling out Southern politicians. The 1850s were explosive. The Kansas-Nebraska Act of 1854 pushed by Stephen Douglas allowed territories to decide themselves whether to allow slavery. This led to violent conflicts with Kansas. How are we always at the center? Remember when I told y'all it's always about us? We're always at the center. Even at the right-wing rhetoric that we've been hearing coming from a lot of places, including Turning Points, right? That rhetoric, that right-wing rhetoric, it's always something to do with us. No matter what happens, they got to kick us in the teeth. We ain't doing nothing, ain't bothering nobody. Oh, you were better in the 1940s. You might have been better in slavery. Wasn't no abortion. Shut up. Like, it never occurs to you, this Bible that you hold dear, do you ever read it? So it was a whole fight. On 1856, Sumner gave the speech titled "The Crime Against Kansas." He condemned the Kansas Pro-Slavery Nebraska Act and accused pro-slavery forces of committing atrocities. He singled out Senator Andrew Butler of South Carolina for special ridicule, mocking his defense of slavery and saying he had taken a mistress to harlot slavery. Well, he had a family member. These people crazy. Let me just tell you, these people crazy. This is just crazy. Preston Brooks, South Carolina congressman and relative of Andrew Butler, took deep offense to Sumner's insults. On May 22nd, 1856, Brooks approached Sumner while he was seated at his desk in the Senate chamber after adjournment. Brooks told Sumner he had insulted his relative and the South. Then he savagely beat him. Now, he was in the desk, couldn't get loose. My legs up under here, and you just beat the living life out of me. So please forgive me if you tell me today you were watching Congress and you saw two Congress people yell at each other and you say that the country is being torn apart, because I never saw it get stitched back together. What I saw was two sides, Confederates, the neo-Confederates that we have now, neoliberals, liberals, and a few scattered leftists, and some conservatives. That's what I see. I don't see a patchwork of countries. I see some neo-Confederates who were never brought to heel. They lost the war, but not really. They got all their wealth back. There's a great study about, one generation, they got their money back because they had social capital. They got all that back, but this ain't nothing new. You see, the thing is, I remember Obama getting up there, and Obama made some people so hopeful. There's not a red America and a blue America. There's one America. How does that look now, ladies and gentlemen? Was that the truth or was that a lie? I'm not asking whether or not Obama thought he was lying. I know Obama always spoke to optimism. That's what he thought, but he didn't know enough. There are two Americas. And what we're beginning to see that very pronounced now, because people are going around and saying anything. People believe anything. Right? There's always an inverse. So we had it where the gatekeepers were the ones who wouldn't let ADOS and the ADOS movement catch on, right? Those were the gatekeepers, and we complained about them because they're the gatekeepers. Why you won't let this? Why you doing this to us? You're supposed to be the gate. Why you doing this? Those were the first set of gatekeepers. The second set of gatekeepers are online, distributed everywhere, and they don't really keep the gate, and they're allowing all kind of falsehoods out the gate. And then Elon owns the Twitter, never X. He owns that thing, and all variations of racism and all kind of other stuff are just adding gasoline to all of this stuff. And it's nothing but dehumanization and dehumanizing speech. And there are people in the center of this who just pour gasoline on it. And the consequence of that should not be any kind of harm brought to that person. But what makes you think any of that is good for the country in which you live? And you can mourn an act without mourning the person. Like I said, I believe anybody can have a redemption. Anybody can have a redeeming moment. So I don't want to see anybody get hurt or killed, because I want you to live long enough to see that you were wrong. I want to live long enough to have to get the opportunity to debate you. I want you to live long enough for that. But I don't think you should have said that stuff in the first place. And I know on some level you know it's wrong, but it's a payday in it. And then you run around and you call yourself a Christian. And then you run around and say, I got a good family. And you don't think about, we have families too. And they have to endure all of this misinformation and all of this dehumanization that you put out on the airways every day. America has decided which direction it wants to go in. This doesn't work. It's never worked. It's always created somebody getting beat with a stick on the floor of the house or whatever. But there's something about this country, they kind of seem to just like not care about it. Right? Well, it'll be all right. We don't, Well, political speech should always. Let me tell you something. The Wilkes Booth, whatever, who killed Abe Lincoln, was a Confederate. Somebody came out and said, "Well, the Democrats, they ain't the same Democrats and they ain't the same Republicans." The person who killed Abe Lincoln thought that if he did that, he could cause some kind of conflagration and the Confederacy would rise again. This is how some people in this country like to solve political problems, and they have done it forever since the inception of this country. If you wanted to vote, if you were a part of a sharecropper union and you were trying to get people to vote, they would find you from a tree. During the civil rights movement, people got ran off the road. They got hurt. They got maimed. They got killed. Don't tell me this is not how this country solves political conflicts. I've lived too long. Please don't tell me that political speech should be protected. It never has been. That assassination changed the trajectory of our lives. Because when Abe Lincoln got assassinated, we got left with a racist drunk as president who gave the Confederacy back to the Confederates. That changed the trajectory of our life. And that's what you do all the time with this violence. You change the trajectory of our lives. And whoever did this changed the trajectory of one family. And that's horrific. But you should think about that. And you should think about what you encourage America. You should think about the kind of language you encourage America. You should think about the kind of stuff that you do, the kind of way you think about, the way you deal with solving problems, the way you talk about guns. You should think about that, America. This isn't a problem that ADOS caused, and it's not a problem that we can solve. But we have been victimized by this kind of dehumanization language. When you go get a job and that person has listened to, rest in peace, Charlie Kirk, or somebody talk about us in a dehumanizing way about our culture or whatever. Well, it's just in the market. It's a market for ideas. There's some ideas that should be in the trash. There's some ideas that should not be in the marketplace no more, because nobody should be shopping for that no more. America needs to change. America needs to become a different kind of country. America needs to become a more thoughtful country and a less violent country. But then again, we have been saying that you've been slaying our leaders forever. So we've been saying that every time one of our leaders get gunned down, we say, America, what are you doing? I wonder, will this open any eyes to remake America instead of romanticizing the Civil War? Let me tell you something. That's another thing. Mr. Kirk, rest in peace, spent all of last week, like a lot of right-wingers, trying to stoke a civil war. We're living with animals. Talk about us, because a man who clearly deranged, because anytime you do that, and that doesn't mean that people who are mentally ill don't come in and out of lucidness. Well, you heard him say, that doesn't mean anything. The man walked around, took his shirt off, and then walked around with the KNIFE after he had done what he did. That's not a thinking person tries to get away. A thinking person would have a motive. A person who doesn't suffer in some capacity from some kind of mental illness. That's what it looks like to me. People have all kind of auditory delusions, but instead, y'all go around. If this had happened to a ADOS person, or if this happened to a black person, we would not all. It happens all the time, and you don't care. I retweeted articles where it happened and you didn't care. You're trying to stir race hatred, and I think at a certain point, which is for the most part lineage hatred, and I think at a certain point, like, we should have a conversation about how that dehumanizing language is not what we need. Instead of just going around saying, "Oh my God, all language should be protected. We should never." You should not hurt anybody over the language, but should all languages be protected? Should you be invited? Should you be allowed to come to a school when you're trying to dehumanize a group of people? Is that up for debate? How long are we going to debate whether or not we're human enough to be here because of hair texture and melanin? How long are we going to do that? How long is that up for debate? Because the person working at HR who hires us, they hear it. The person who is working with us, they hear it. You create that ideology, and you keep this whole system going where we are always the racialized bottom caste. Is that protected speech? Is that healthy for the country? Was that healthy today? And I know good and well. What's it? I can't say the name. Y'all ain't gonna get me snatched off YouTube. Look, but I listen, and listen. I really don't want to see anybody harmed or hurt, because I know how that's going to be used in the coming days and weeks. I know how people just get vengeful over nothing too. Regardless of how anybody in the chat or anybody else may feel about any particular person, I know how that gets used. It gets used like any one of us who were just working or watching TV today were complicit in something that happened. I know how that gets used. That's just foresight. I know how that gets used. It gets used against us every time. Like we were on the roof. Did y'all see? Is this person caught yet? And y'all hit the like button while you're in here. But did they catch the shooter yet? I'm still blown away. How did that shooter get away? What's this, Utah? What's going on in Utah? I'm blown away that this shooter, is it, I saw Cash Patel say that the language of the tweet said, we have caught, the language of the tweet, let me see what the language of the tweet, it said something like, I didn't know what he was writing. It didn't even make no sense to me. I'm blown away that, like, this person, the subject for the horrific, did he mean of? But then I saw somebody come out and say that it wasn't true. When he said the subject for the horrific shooting, did he mean of? Oh, child, I don't know. I don't know how nobody gets out of that. None of this stuff makes any sense to me. I just don't think something should be punished by death. But I also think you shouldn't let dehumanizing language come out. I also believe that. And, you know, my whole thing is, like, people, let's just stop acting like this hasn't been happening. Let's stop acting. I'm just not talking about us, but let's stop acting like this hasn't been somebody's politics or their political speech or their political inclinations has not been for a very long time reason enough for people to think that they can take them away from this planet as if they brought them here. Right? Rest in peace to Miss Hortman too. Miss Hortman says this is the American way. That's how Americans deal with stuff with violence. It's a fetish or something. It's a problem. Remember, we saw Gabby Giffords too. Right? We saw a lot of, what are we talking about every time? Well, language should never, yes it is. That's what y'all do. And I don't know who did this, so I'm not talking specifically about this incident. I don't know who did this. So I don't know who they're going to pick up. Down to them pick up a bunch of people. I don't know who they're going to pick up and say did this. I don't know. Because I don't know at this point. I don't know. The person, it's taking so long to catch the person. I don't know. I'm not going to know when it happens. Somebody's got to give me some more information because this stuff is starting to look real sketchy to me. It's starting to look real sketchy to me. Right? But we, when you talk about political violence, we had our 4 little girls get blowed up. So I don't want to hear anything today about how all politics and political speech should be protected. Y'all killed our babies. There was a whole big thing one time when King wanted to have a march with the children and the parents were upset because the parents were scared for the babies because they understood that these folk don't care nothing about our children. They'll kill our children as soon as they'll kill a roach on the floor. They don't care about our kids. And that wasn't dehumanizing political talk the King was doing. That was justice. That was freedom. That was I love everybody. That was we want to have the moral high ground. That was marching in suits and Sunday best and dresses. Didn't stop a thing. That didn't stop the bullets from flying. So we kind of understand where we are in this journey of America. And it's very hard for me. Let me just speak for me. Nobody in custody. Child, what was this, a ghost? But let me just say, it's just very hard for me to hear people saying, "Oh, this is just not. We don't do this in America and hurt somebody over political speech. Speech is protected in America." But since when? Since when is speech protected? It should be. But we also have to rethink dehumanizing speech because nothing good ever comes from it. And normally it's just nothing good comes from it for us, but nothing good ever comes from it. Other people get elected to office. Democrats start chasing right-wingers. And ever since Reagan, they've been chasing the working class white vote. White people start thinking that the people who are actually taking stuff from them are actually Negroes. Right? That's why they fought. The funniest thing in the world is how when Ed Bloom did the initial affirmative action lawsuit, he had a little redhead woman. And fighting affirmative action when the main beneficiaries of affirmative action are white women. So you had white woman fighting white woman and nobody even talked about it that way. So no, it never did. When we do politics and have a political speech that is to our benefit and it doesn't dehumanize white folk at all, doesn't dehumanize people, quote unquote, people of color at all. Sometimes our babies get killed. But when you get on TV, listen to people on TV, America's a place for free speech. No, it hasn't. I just want everybody to be honest about America. That's my only thing right now. I just need everybody to get honest about what America is and what America has always been. America has not been a bastion for free speech. And I'm not saying it should. I'm saying some free speech should be frowned upon. Nothing violent, but everybody I agree with some people you shouldn't invite to the school. If you're gonna get to this school or this college and talk about how Negroes were better in the 40s, and you haven't studied anything, ain't read not one book, you can't cite anything. You can cite something Thomas Sowell said. If that's all you can do, if you haven't even done the work to sit here in this institution, I don't want you to be there because the only thing you do is create baby monsters. I don't want you to be there having that conversation if it dehumanizes me and my people and leaves us worse off. I don't want to see you there. I don't want to see you hurt, but I don't want to see you there. And white people got to deal with white people. I remember Toni Morrison said something like that. Y'all, there's nothing we can do. Y'all got to deal with this. Y'all got to deal with your cousin. You got to deal with your sister. You got to deal with your brother who believes this kind of stuff and is passing it around. You got to deal with you. Listen, we've tried to fix you. We've tried to have rights. We've tried to do all of this stuff the right way, and it just doesn't seem to have worked. So I think you have to deal with you. Those of you who have a bunch of Christian stuff in your bio and you go around talking about how we're less than and we just don't have it and we were better off doing Jim Crow and sharecropping, you have to deal with yourself and be honest about what you see when you look in the mirror. There's nothing that we can do to fix this. And let me just say one more thing. For a lot of people who I have seen romanticizing, like this is going to pop off a civil war, right? Yeah, and it's just like to your point, fam. Somebody said universities and colleges shouldn't allow so much intellectual dishonesty. Yes, that's what it is. They make it. They say it's ideological diversity. No, it's dishonesty. We're not inferior to anybody. This is just dishonest. There's nothing biologically that makes us as ADOS or even other African people biologically inferior to anybody else. So you say, well, you should have a diversity. No, you're just inviting the Klan to the table. No. These are Klan ideologies. These are Nazi ideologies. Nazis got everything from us. That's where these ideologies come from. Why is that ideology at your school? And we know you can do it to protect us because you did it to protect another group. And let me say one thing about people who are popping off. This could start a civil war. This could start a civil war. Possible. But I read this book a while ago, and I think I told a lot of y'all when I read it, and I don't agree with everything in it. But I want to just bring up one thing before I go. I want to bring up one thing because people tend to romanticize a civil war, and I think some people are crazy. I think some people on the right have worked themselves up into a fever pitch. And let me just say something. One of the things that was very interesting about the book is that the country is never better off after a civil war. America was not better off after the first civil war. You're not, even if you win, even if your group wins, the country's not going to be better off. So you figure out a way to avoid it. Stop walking around with little handcuffs and stuff, romanticizing what it's going to be like to hit a Negro upside the head. Like, get yourself together. Go to church. Do something. Read something. Do something worthwhile with your life. Go outside and throw a ball with your kid. You don't have to hold all this hatred in your heart. But let me say something else that was just very interesting. That looks very familiar. This is a quote. People may tolerate poverty, years of poverty, unemployment, discrimination. They may accept shoddy schools, poor hospitals, and neglected infrastructure. But there is one thing they will not tolerate: losing status in a place they believe is theirs. In the 21st century, the most dangerous factions are once dominant groups facing decline. Once dominant groups facing decline. Let me tell you, fam. That's kind of what we're looking at with the white right. We, as ADOS, have a conversation about immigration, not in terms of, oh my God, there's a bunch of other brown people here. We have a conversation about natives versus bringing other people in who displace us in the employment. Not a kind of hatred, you're displacing us. We have to talk about that in terms of outcomes, impacts. There's another conversation going on that involves us in the right, though, that they're just losing their place as the majority, and everywhere they look, they see it. So I saw another incident on the train, and there was a racist tweet about it. And the in the tweet, because racists can never find the right problem. It's kind of like if all you got is a hammer, like you're gonna see a nail everywhere. That's all they are. They're just a walking hammer. So there's a officer and there's a man, right? The officer is not in screen when this is going on, but there is a black man. I don't know his heritage, his lineage, but he was trying to hit the white man with the hammer, right? That's what was on screen. And the officer didn't come in till later. And the officer was also black or ADOS. I couldn't tell what lineage. It was New York. Can't never tell. So, and the racist was like, you see there? That we can't live like this. White people can't live like this. That man was going to hit him, and the black police officer wasn't doing nothing. Meanwhile, you have a group of black women off to the side who are saying, officer, no. The man was trying to hit that white man with the hammer. No. You got to protect him. They were off to the side taking the white guy's side. But nobody was, and they cannot find the right reason for this. The reason for this is the Supreme Court decided that the police have no obligation to protect you. So the reason that we have this problem with this police officer not really intervening with this person with a knife who is almost attacking the white guy, is because the Supreme Court said the police do not have an obligation to protect you. That is a problem with our government and with our court. It's not a race problem, but you have these people fixated with the Civil War and not thinking about what that means for the country or themselves. They don't even see the problem right. The problem is a policing problem. The problem is a Supreme Court problem. The problem is not a Negro problem because the women are right there on the little white man's side. This is not what it is. But if that's how you earn your money, right? If that's how you earn your cash, if that's how you earn your YouTube dollars or wherever you at, then it is what it is, right? Here's another quote really quick before we get out of here. Remember, it's not the desperately poor who start civil wars, but those who once had privilege and feel they are losing status they feel is rightfully theirs. See, the people who are really losing in this country, we see white folk who are losing in this country right now. And they are in the car crying and upset. A lot of the people who are the most angry are making videos from wonderful homes, or at least decent homes. Better homes than a lot of us have, because they feel like the privilege is being lost. That's not the people who are like the people who are the white folk who are doing bad. They in their cars crying to the thing. I can't believe I'm working. I work at 2 jobs. They crying that they ain't even got time to make the video. No, the people you see making these videos are people who are not the poorest of white folk. They are just people who are losing what they feel is their privilege and their ability to lord over other people. And something has to be done about that. And you cannot not allow that rhetoric to spread, because then you might actually see a civil war. And civil wars ain't never pretty. And you know why people don't ever leave before the Civil War happens? Because nobody ever thinks it's going to happen. Everybody people are like, why didn't they leave? Why did they get out of that? They didn't know that. No, nobody ever really knows, hey, this thing is about to pop off. Let me get my little Snoopy sack and get out of here. No, it's just one day you wake up and everything's on fire. So America, policymakers, y'all better get it together, because you got the wrong president for all of this stuff. All of y'all, everybody better get it together. And when I say everybody, I mean these people who have been since this country was created, sharing, posting, propagating the most violent and divisive rhetoric possible. That has not been us. We have wanted nothing but to be American. If you saw us, whether it was Fannie Lou Hamer, Ella Baker, Martin Luther King, right, except for the black separatists, they were flying American flags saying, I want to be American. That's why we keep it. That's in the legacy of what we do. Other people have been always trying to otherize and oust us. And I think today, as well as any other day, is a come to Jesus meeting. Which way do we want to go, America? Because we've tried to encourage you to go in a direction that is useful and helpful, and you just don't seem to want to go that way. So which way do you want to go? Do you want to do January 6th and run around with little plastic handcuffs and poop in Nancy Pelosi's office, or do you want to be serious people? You don't look respectable to me. You don't look particularly helpful. You don't look particularly civilized. So which way, folk, do we want to go? That's my only question. Let me just read this for a quick second. Americans across the political spectrum are becoming more accepting of violence as a means to achieve, this is from the book, How Civil War Started, of violence as a means to achieve political goals, not less. She wrote this in the book. The book is already published. So we have never been, this is not who we are. This is not who we've been. America free speech. No, it hasn't. She's saying in the book, Americans across political spectrum are becoming more accepting of violence as a means to achieve political goals, not less. Recent survey data show that 33% of Democrats and 36% of Republicans feel somewhat justified in using violence. Hey, let me tell you. In 2017, just 8% of people in both parties felt the same way. America's headed towards a very bad place. And, everybody better get it together. But especially the people who espouse this divisive rhetoric, because it's very good for the people who pay for your podcast. So act like we don't know that your podcast, your right-wing podcasts are paid for. Just like a lot of the little influencers on the left, they was getting their stuff paid for by the party, Democratic Party. Somebody asked me, were you surprised? No, because billionaires are funding a lot of these podcasts on the right. And states, other foreign states and stuff are funding a lot of these. Wasn't me, wasn't ever ADOS is a Russian bot. No. We found out a lot of that money went other places. Wasn't me. It wasn't over here in ADOS. We didn't even talk about the white folk who was getting funded by the Russians. We didn't even have that conversation. You getting paid to behave a certain way and put on a certain act and pretend to be a Christian. And now, for those of you all who are invested in that and find value in that, I think now's the time to reassess what you're doing and whether or not this is actually your patriotic duty or whether you need to come back to Jesus, Black Jesus, little Adolf Jesus. Like, you need to figure out where you want to come back to, because this ain't it. This ain't it. And this ain't the path. And it's just going to get more people hurt. We have been hurt by it throughout history. Slaves and their descendants, chattel slaves in this country. And I think other people are going to get hurt by it as well now. So I think now is a come to Jesus moment for a lot of people. Real Jesus, not fake Jesus. All right? So fam, that's all I really had to say tonight. I just had to come out here and say something about everything that happened. Rest in peace. It's bad for kids to be raised without a parent. But everybody got to decide. Do we want to have a peaceful way forward and become a cohesive country, or you just want to just espouse this trash all the time? Do you want to walk in the way of justice and you want to walk in the way of reparations, or do you want to just tell us how we're inferior and tell everybody how they just not as good as you and just insult people and make money for billionaires, because that encourages people not to have a safety net, because you believe that it's always just the Negroes and it's the Negroes and it's some immigrants over there or whatever. But it's mostly the Negroes. They've been eating out the trough for years. See, that's the kind of things that make safety nets go away if you believe that the wrong people are getting it. And before anybody was even talking about immigration, they were talking about us. So you got to figure out what you want to do. This is a moment just to push past with thoughts and prayers. Because that's what y'all like to do too. Just push past this thing. Don't really think about it. Thoughts and prayers, get some revenge and move on. Now might not be the time for that. Now might be the time to figure out exactly what you want to do and whether or not this is a path that you think America should walk. Because this ain't a good path to go down. And we ain't had no cohesion since inception. So you might want to consider it, good white folk and good people of color who integrated into whiteness. You might want to consider whether or not this divisive path where you dehumanize folks online, well, this is the way to go. Anyway, fam, I'll let y'all go. Y'all stay safe out there, because a lot of people just look. We haven't had, as far as y'all told me, no arrest yet. But everybody like to have revenge on us. So we ain't even. So we don't know. It's last time I looked, we don't know who it is. But if we do, it is what it is. Shout out to you, Kier. If you Espinoza, if you're an atheist, we love you too. I don't hold nothing against nobody. But I hate people just being in the chat to be divisive. Anyway, fam, stay safe. All right? Take care of yourself. Don't keep your eyes open, keep your head on a swivel. And I'll see y'all. I think I'm doing a something Patreon tomorrow, but I will definitely see y'all on Friday at 2 on Patreon. If you're not on Patreon, patreon.com/ycarnell, and also at Substack. All right. See y'all soon.